Recently, it was reported on the internet that China has gathered 18,000 volunteer troops and is preparing to send troops to Russia to participate in the Russia-Ukraine war. So, will Xi Jinping help Russia fight Ukraine? What political signals are sent by China's recent frequent visits to Russia by high-level officials? What is the relationship between China and Russia? No matter how the situation changes, will the Beijing government support Russia? In this episode, we bring you some in-depth analysis and discussion. High-level officials of the Chinese Communist Party have frequently visited Russia recently. On August 20th, Chinese Premier Li Qiang arrived at an airport in Moscow for a two-day official visit to Russia. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Rudenko and others greeted Li Qiang at the plane's ramp. They arranged a welcoming ceremony with a flag raising, the national anthem playing, and a guard of honor. On August 21st, Russian President Putin met with Li Qiang at the Kremlin in Moscow. Putin said that Russia and China have large-scale cooperation plans in the coming years. He expressed that he is looking forward to Xi Jinping's visit to Russia in October this year to attend the Kazan BRICS summit. Our countries have large-scale joint plans, projects in the economic and humanitarian eras. We expect them to last for many years. Together with our friend, President Xi Jinping, we have set the appropriate reference points during our summits both in Moscow and Beijing. Li Qiang said that Beijing is willing to work with Russia to strengthen all-round pragmatic cooperation. Li Qiang is the first Chinese leader to visit Moscow since Ukrainian troops crossed into the Russian border area on August 6th. Neither China nor Russia's statements mentioned whether Putin talked about the Russian-Ukraine war and its latest developments when he met with Li Qiang. We are ready together with you to fully implement the agreements reached on the top level and constantly expand the multifaceted and mutually beneficial cooperation. I am ready to exchange ideas which comprise mutual interest. Before meeting Putin, Li Qiang also held talks with Russian Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin and signed a joint communiqué and a new version of the China-Russia Investment Cooperation Planning Outline. This included cooperation documents in the fields of education, science and technology, chemical industry, green construction, maritime search and rescue, cross-border cargo transportation, and convenience of citizen exchanges. After Chinese Prime Minister Li Qiang visited Russia, the Chinese military immediately followed up. On August 23rd, a People's Liberation Army delegation led by Chinese Army Commander Li Chaoming arrived in Moscow to discuss military cooperation. Russian Army Commander-in-Chief Oleg Salukov reached an agreement with the delegation to strengthen cooperation. He said, "Thanks to the efforts of the leaders of Russia and China, today the relations between our two countries have reached an unprecedented high level. For us, China is a strategic partner." As usual, at the beginning of the work, the delegation, led by Salukov, laid wreaths and flowers at the tomb of the unknown soldier in the Alexander Garden outside the Red Wall of the Kremlin. In addition, China also had two senior deputy state-level officials attending official meetings. From August 19th to the 20th, Vice Premier He Lifeng attended the 28th meeting of the regular meeting committee between the Chinese and Russian prime ministers in Moscow. On August 19th, State Councillor Chen Yiqin also chaired the China-Russia Humanities Cooperation Committee meeting in Moscow. In addition, on August 17th, Chinese Vice Foreign Minister Ma Zhaoshu held consultations with Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Rybakov in Beijing to exchange in-depth views on Sino-Russian relations, global strategic stability, BRICS cooperation, and other issues. What political signals does China's high-level visit to Russia send? Dr. Zhang Tianliang, a professor at Feitian University in the US, analyzed, there are four main signals. First, Xi Jinping has not lost power, as has been said recently on the internet. On the contrary, Xi has great power. When senior CCP officials visit Russia, Xi must have asked them to go. Yes, they are also executing Xi's will. Second, Xi believes Putin is in no imminent danger. The Ukrainian army has entered Russia, but it currently does not have the ability to attack Moscow. Xi will not support Putin when the situation is over, but will only support him when he is unstable. Third, the CCP will adopt a method of persuading peace and promoting talks in the future. Xi wanted to persuade Zelensky not to push Putin too hard and then persuade Putin to give up some territory and reach a consensus with Ukraine. Fourth, instead of helping Russia fight Ukraine, it's better to launch a war in the Taiwan Strait to coordinate operations. But Xi doesn't dare to attack Taiwan. From the current Russia-Ukraine war, we can see that the Russian military's technology is very backward, corruption is very serious, its combat effectiveness is very low, and its intelligence is very limited. All this is a warning to Xi, who knows that the Chinese army is not as good as the Russian army. If Putin cannot win the Russia-Ukraine war, Xi cannot win in the Taiwan Strait. Xi Jinping, Canadian chairman of the Democratic Front, also said, "In fact, the recent frequent interactions between China and Russia have two lines, pragmatism and non-pragmatism. The so-called non-pragmatism means the Chinese government wants to express political support for Putin. Now the Russia-Ukraine war has entered a new stage. At this stage, Russia is increasingly falling into an unfavorable situation. They need psychological, moral, and spiritual support to prevent it from falling apart and destroying their psychological defense line in an unfavorable war situation." The so-called pragmatism means that the Beijing government must conspire, study, and discuss to see if there is any way to provide Russia from all economic and technological perspectives without causing too much backlash. Such assistance allows it to continue this war. Senior commentator Lan Shu analyzed, "There have been some changes on the battlefield between Ukraine and Russia recently. To avoid being sanctioned by the West, China has stopped small banks in some places from providing services for Sino-Russian trade. In the future, trade between China and Russia will continue based on the barter method. The CCP will still use this method to evade Western sanctions and continue to support Russia's war in Ukraine. In this situation, China and Russia may have a series of economic and trade issues that require high-level coordination from both sides." In addition, Ukraine is opening up a new battlefield in Russia at this time. Putin is under great pressure. What big move will Putin make next? He also needs to come to an end with Beijing. However, it's not appropriate for Putin to leave Moscow to visit Beijing at the moment, so it's said that the CCP keeps sending these high-level figures to Moscow in hopes to find out what Putin will do next. Putin also needs the support of Beijing, so the current high-level contacts between China and Russia are very close. But there isn't a major reason why Xi and Putin can meet directly. Will Xi send troops to help Russia fight Ukraine? Dr. Zhang Tianliang believes that Xi will not send troops and he dare not participate in the Russia-Ukraine war because the consequences will be serious. China now provides Russia with weapons manufacturing supplies such as machine tools, chips, chemical products for ammunition manufacturing, etc. This move has angered the US. The US has severely warned the CCP that if the CCP continues to support Russia, it will be severely sanctioned. However, American independent television producer Lee Juen said North Korea's Kim Jong-un may send the Army Engineering Corps to participate in the Ukrainian war. With China's support, Russia now produces about 4 million to 5 million artillery shells a year. Starting from the end of 2023, North Korea also began to sell large quantities of ammunition to Russia. According to Western media reports, large Russian cargo ships have been constantly traveling between Russia and North Korea. It's currently estimated that 11,000 containers of ammunition have been sent to Russia, which is a large amount. There are at least 1 million artillery shells here, as well as short-range missiles with a range of 700 kilometers. On June 27, there was news online that Kim Jong-un might send the Army Engineer Corps to participate in the war in Ukraine because the two countries have established a military alliance. Putin certainly hopes that North Korea will send troops. It's said that Putin issued an invitation a few months ago hoping that North Korea could send troops to Ukraine to help. Now there is news that North Korea will send 4 combat engineer brigades, about 20,000 people, to Ukraine to help Russia with its recovery and reconstruction work. There is even more shocking news that Russia has prepared $115 million in compensation for North Korean soldiers. This is incredible. Kim Jong-un needs US dollars too much, and it doesn't matter to him how many soldiers die. If this news is true, Kim Jong-un may indeed send troops, and North Korea has just signed the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership Treaty with Russia. According to this agreement, if either party is invaded, the other country must provide military assistance. After the Ukrainian-Russian war broke out, some Chinese also joined the Russian army to help the war. The most famous was a young man named Zhao Ru who went to the Russian military recruitment station to sign up in September 2023. He claimed on his social media that he joined the Russian army with more than 100 comrades from China and was assigned to different companies to participate in the battle. Later, he released a video to persuade everyone to be sensible and not come to the battlefield. The current situation is more cruel than imagined. If you want to participate in the Russia-Ukraine war, do it yourself. Don't post some videos to deceive those in the country who don't know the actual situation. Stop trusting these heartless and deceptive scammers online. War has brought only devastating blows to mankind. We Chinese people should not come here again. I don't want you to be deceived by those who want to gain network traffic and let you die. I hope everyone has some conscience. In the end, he was killed by a Ukrainian drone on November 29th. The news of his death was revealed in December. He was the first Chinese foreign volunteer confirmed to be killed in action and whose name was made public since the outbreak of the Russia-Ukraine war. Joining him in the war was Chinese national Zhou Jichang. He admitted that he only joined the Russian army for a salary of 20,000 yuan, equivalent to $2,800, but now he is treated as a death squad. The Russians didn't regard us as human beings. We were no different from death squads. I was hit by 7 drone bombs, but I survived because of my fate. There was also news that a Chinese volunteer asked the Chinese embassy for help, hoping to terminate his contract with the Russian army and return home. However, he was rejected and his Douyin account was also blocked. However, there was also a CCP fan video from Tangshan City, Hebei Province, China, claiming that it will join the Russia-Ukraine war in the form of a volunteer army. We are a small team from Tangshan City, Hebei Province, China, supporting Russia. This is our chief of staff and this is our political commissaire. We are going to Russia to participate in regular army training. One of the purposes is to enhance our Sino-Russian friendship. In addition, we hope to improve our overall quality. We can always be prepared to fight against hegemony, aggression, and provocation by Western countries. As the old Chinese saying goes, anyone who offends China will be punished no matter how far away. The purpose of our trip is to train ourselves. Then there is the promotion of friendship. The 5,000 years of Chinese history tells us that although the world is peaceful, it will be dangerous if we forget to fight. The relationship between China and Russia is about deepening mutual trust, but never forgetting suspicion. No matter how the situation changes, will the Beijing government support Russia without limit? Let's take stock. Over the past decade, China and Russia's heads of state have met several times. From March 22, 2013, Xi Jinping and Putin met 12 times. The locations of the meetings were 5 times in Moscow, 5 times in Beijing, once in Shanghai, and once in Vladivostok. The most recent meeting was on May 16th when Xi Jinping met with Putin in Beijing as president. The two talked about deepening the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership of Coordination and jointly signed and published the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership of Cooperation to anniversary of the 75th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between the two countries, Joint Statement on Relations. According to the Free Asia Report, the relationship between China and Russia has gone from unlimited friendship to bottomless war. It's one of constantly deepening mutual trust and unforgettable suspicion. Although Sino-Russia relations have undoubtedly become closer in recent years, recently disclosed documents show that the Russian military still worries that China's strong rise may threaten its territorial sovereignty. Russian military expert Alexei Arbatov disclosed on the Russian political commentary website. On the Chinese side, some of the 50 land-based ballistic missiles may be aimed at Russia's European territory. The 60 medium-range ballistic missiles located in the Shenyang and Lanzhou northern military regions, as well as the 150 land-based combat tactical and cruise missiles, are obviously aimed at Siberia and the Far East. On the other hand, Guo Juan, editor-in-chief of the Epoch Times, believes that whether Xi Jinping will support Russia without limit depends entirely on changes in the situation. The CCP has realized that even if it unites with Russia, it may be impossible to change the current world situation and break the dominance of the US and the West in global affairs. Recently, some subtle changes have occurred in some policies of the CCP. The leaders of the CCP, including Mao Zedong, are very pragmatic. He will follow the wind and steer the ship when the situation is unfavorable. This is one of their traditions. I think Xi Jinping will also be such a character. Although some people think he is very stubborn, he is definitely a pragmatist at heart. Or we think he is very utilitarian. In other words, whether the CCP will fully and unreservedly support Russia in the future will completely depend on changes in the situation. Guo Juan also said that the huge shock Ukraine has caused Russia this time must be a precursor to a big change. Many people have already seen that this big change is coming. It's just a matter of when, how, what process, and what consequences. Everyone may have their own understanding, but it's the unanimous view of many people that huge changes will occur.